Hey, everybody, it's Bunny Pounds here with Christians Engaged podcast. We are interrupting our replaying of our messages from our Wake Up Conference last year because we felt like it was really important to have a podcast specifically around the life issue right now. As you all know, Roe v. Wade is gone. I mean, I never thought I'd see this in our generation. It's been something we've been praying for and seeking God for. And as a church body, whether you're Protestant or Catholic, if you read your Bible, it's really hard to not be pro-life. And so it is amazing to see what God's doing. But at the same time, it's an amazing opportunity for the church to stand up and to be a voice and to make sure that these hurting women and men and these unborn babies are saved. And that's why I wanted to have a conversation with a couple of our pregnancy centers here in Texas. And I know it's very similar around the United States. We have crisis pregnancy centers that are there ready to minister to these women, to help these men that are also going through these trials, and to save these unborn babies and to see them be adopted, to have life, and to give the resources and the knowledge and the information, the education that these women so need. So with that, stay tuned. You can't wait to introduce these women. So we have Debbie Brinkley. Debbie was a missionary in South America for years, 26 years, is bilingual in Spanish. Yeah. That's amazing. And Debbie and I met just a while back in Canton, Texas. She leads Hope Pregnancy Center in Canton, Texas. And this is in a very rural community, Debbie, and I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We're excited. And then also we have Leanne Jamieson from Prestonwood Pregnancy Center in a very urban area, Collin County, Dallas County. Leanne, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks, Bunny.
Well, and both of these women have amazing resumes of leadership. Leanne, you've done so much in the pro-life movement and in church ministry. But how in the world did you get started? Tell us a little bit of your story.
Yeah, I have been in ministry for a few decades and have always been pro-life. I really, honestly, had never seen myself in a role like this, but my church, Prestonwood Baptist Church, had a need, and as I was their women's ministry director at the time at their Dallas location, they came and asked if I would step into it. And I will be honest, I think that I'd always see myself as a women's ministry director. I had no idea that this is women's family ministry, really, actually, family ministry on steroids, and very missional. That's always been my heart, is missions and evangelism, and just to get to help people that are hurting. And the fascinating, incredible thing about pregnancy center ministry is that they come to you and they're looking for hope. And we know hope has a name, and that's Jesus. And so just so blessed.
Well, it's so incredible, all the great work that our crisis pregnancy centers do, because you're not only helping them with diapers and resources and education, but, you know, if they're Christ-focused, for the most part they are, you're giving them Jesus.
Yes.
And it's so powerful
the
how
true
that
life
impacts,
changer.
Yes, impacts
absolutely.
them. Yeah. Debbie, you have been involved, of course, in missions for years. Kind of tell us, this is a new role for you as an executive director of a pro-life ministry as well. Tell us a little bit of your story.
Yeah, that I agree with so many things that Leanne said. My husband and I have been in ministry for well over 30 years, nearly 40 years. And so when we were early on the field as missionaries in South America, one of the first things I was asked to do was to serve as a volunteer in a crisis counseling center for women who came to that center. And one of the very first women that I was asked to counsel was a woman who was suffering from severe depression as a result of circumstances that led her up to having an abortion. And I quickly realized that I was not equipped to handle the great need that she was experiencing. And so because of the power of the Holy Spirit, she was restored to health and to right relationship. But it started me on a journey of finding ways to equip myself to be able to meet women where they were and to be able to respond a little bit more in a more equipped way to respond to whatever needs they were experiencing at the time. And so when I was home on furlough, I would volunteer at pregnancy centers because they have great training for women who serve in the volunteer roles. Then the Lord made it possible for me to study for a degree in biblical counseling while I was overseas. And so my practicum hours that were required for that, I did in a pregnancy center in Lima, Peru. So I had the opportunity to continue developing my experience and contact with the pregnancy center ministry. Then when we came back to the States a few years ago, this opportunity was there for me to step into the role of executive director. And so it was a perfect fit for me as a person who has served in the ministry of presenting Christ and the gospel, the good news of the gospel to people, but to also minister to women and families. Like you say, it's a family ministry. It's not just about women.
It's so powerful. And most of our listeners know my husband paid for a couple abortions in his pre-Christ years, and it affected our marriage in that when I got involved in the pro-life movement, he didn't want to tell me that this has happened, and that I would look at him differently, or I would think about him differently. And we all know that, Christ redeems us, right, from the curse of the law and from that sinful, those decisions, and brings healing. And so I love what you guys are doing, bringing healing to the whole family, right?
Yes.
Men, women,
Absolutely.
the whole family. So Leanne, what does that look like day to day for those people out there that don't know what a pregnancy center does in a local community? Why should they get involved? Why should they care? What does the daily life look like?
Well, I think, for the first time, really crisis or pregnancy resource centers were all over the news recently. And I think there's a lot of, there's the pro-life side that does a really good narrative about what we do. And then, of course, there's the other side, and there's a lot of misinformation. So obviously pregnancy centers exist for those that find themselves in that unplanned pregnancy, and we are here to help them make a life-affirming decision from conception to eternity. And but it's more than that. It's more than just a pregnancy test and a sonogram, although those are powerful. The hearing of a heartbeat in a room as a woman is seeing her child for the very first time, that's holy ground. God uses that as an incredible tool. But we do more than just that. We cry, we laugh, we sympathize, we encourage, we empower, and we do more than just in that moment. I've said this, and I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, Bunny, but we are pro-life in word, but pro-love in action. And we are not just pro-birth. And I think that's the accusation, you would probably agree, of a lot of pregnancy centers, is that you're just pro-birth. And I really think that at this juncture, with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, the world is going to see that pregnancy centers are positioned uniquely to be able to equip and empower those that are in those unplanned pregnancies to be able to go the distance. And we will walk with that young person and provide diapers and provide the resources that they need, and not just giving them stuff, but equipping them, whether it be job ministries. A lot of pregnancy centers have job ministries. I know we have an HR director that will sit with a client and help them prepare their resume and learn how to interview and be able to get them outfits and budgeting. And I mean, we even have someone at Prestonwood Baptist Church that will write a will with them. So I think if we're out there and we are really filling the gap and networking too with other ministries who are already providing so much of what a young couple needs, that we're able to network and be able to provide that continuum of care.
That's so good. And my purpose for doing this podcast today is to empower all of you to get involved in the pro-life movement. And there's more that we can do than just advocating down at our state houses or with our elected officials in Washington, D.C. The low-hanging fruit, guys, is find your pregnancy center in your area, in your neighborhood. For me in East Dallas, it's Thrive. and get involved, become a donor. Figure out, can I give more than 5 hours, a month? Could I actually volunteer? Can I donate diapers? All these things. So, Debbie, how do women actually find the center? How do they reach out? How do you guys market out in the community? And what does that look like when a woman walks in the door?
Yeah, I think different centers have different approaches to it, but we all have a website that you can look up. If you Google Pregnancy Center, Van Zandt County, for example, you're going to find us. So we all maintain websites. We have Facebook pages so that you can be a friend of ours if you want to be a part of the private page where you get specific information, prayer requests, those kinds of things. But then we have a public page as well so that potential clients can get the information they need for whatever need they have at the moment. We have local stationary signage that we place in strategic locations throughout our county and surrounding counties as well. But interestingly enough, for our center, over 80% of our clients come from referral from someone else. So it's word of mouth that's important. And so when I share with a church or with another group about what can you do to help us, we always say, you can pray for us, which is incredibly necessary. You can give to us, supporting us financially. But one of the things I tell them is we need you to talk about us. We need you to be informed at what we do and the services that we provide so that you, in your sphere of influence, can also tell people about us. But so when they are facing a need, they know where to find us. I like what Leanne said in that many people think we just do a pregnancy test or a sonogram. But all of us go much beyond that. We have programs that start with students to how to help them be equipped to say no to risky behavior that would lead to an unplanned pregnancy, all the way to that parenting education. Different centers have a different limit, but in our case, we are walking with that parent for the first 2 years of that child's life. And so it's not just a save the baby and off you go. It's rescue the baby and rescue the family.
Yes.
That's what we try to do.
So here in the state of Texas, we had the heartbeat law, that pretty much made it, illegal to abort a baby after a heartbeat, but it's enforced through individual citizens. So it's a kind of odd law, but it did what it was supposed to do, which is everything stopped, which is amazing that it actually worked, right? And then we had Roe v. Wade go away. And so we've had multiple levels here going on in Texas. And I felt like it was important, Leanne, you're in the urban communities, Debbie's in the rural communities. What did life look like before all of that happened? And then kind of what does life look like now, the new normal? Is there an increase of people? Give me a little before and after.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2 answers to that. First is, in a lot of ways, what pregnancy centers were doing pre-heartbeat law versus post really isn't that different. We woke up the next morning and there were still women coming to our centers that were in that unplanned pregnancy. And in fact, in the very early days, they really didn't understand how that applied to them. And so a lot of education. But I will say that our numbers are greatly increasing. Last year we saw, we're, like you said, we're in an urban area, so we serve a lot of women. We saw around 20,000 client visits last year, and we're going to be well over 25 or 26,000 this year. But interestingly, when you look at those numbers and you dissect them, what you see is a lot more women that are abortion determined coming through our doors. And that has certainly increased even in the last month or two. And just trying to navigate, they're really just trying to figure out, like, am I pregnant? What am I to do? It really makes, in a lot of ways, our educational piece.
Yes.
Initially, on the phone, especially before they even come into our centers. We do a lot of that, crisis call training. How do you deal with someone that is, just in such a state of upheaval that they aren't even really sure what's next or what way is up. And so just being able to calm them down and build that trust and let them know we're a safe place to come. But we did see our numbers increase. We have also sadly seen the numbers increase of women rushing to make that decision. We have always said you're much better to respond to your situation than to react. React is a very quick and not thought out decision often. And so we offer the abortion pill reversal at our center. And in the first 2 months, we saw 11 abortion pill reversal clients. Wow. And you're reacting to that because you know that last year we probably saw 4 or 5 the whole year. And so to see that many more women, and it's a hard, the abortion pill reversal is a hard message to get out there. If you watch the news at all, then you know that Facebook recently shut down one of the major web pages informing people about the abortion pill reversal. Google is certainly not necessarily friendly to it. And so for women to find it's a bit of a challenge. But the fact that many women were reaching out. So, I say this, it is very evident that in a lot of ways, we know in Texas, abortion has become illegal. But it is yet to be unthinkable.
Right.
Or unattainable. Right. And what we're seeing is certainly are we going to see more babies born as a result of the law change? The heartbeat bill, we know that happened. Yeah. I could introduce you to women who chose them life and are holding little babies right now that are so filled with peace that they did enjoy. But we also have had the other side where there have been women that have left the state or accessed chemical abortion illegally.
Yeah. Well, and that's important for people to understand. Debbie, in a rural community, has there been a lot of change?
I would say not as drastic as you would have in an urban area, just because of the cultural influences of a rural community. However, we are seeing some of the same things that women are rushing to make decisions. We're seeing a real uptick in women who are coming to the center or calling the center much earlier in their pregnancies, and they're not being truthful with us about how far along they are. They will give us information that would indicate they are 8 or 9 weeks pregnant, and then when we see them, they may be 5 or 6 weeks along. And that's important because when we schedule an ultrasound, we're only able to do ultrasounds twice a month. And so we could push people out a little bit, but now there's such an urgency, they don't want to wait. They won't let us push them out a couple of weeks. And if we offer an ultrasound too early, it's very difficult to get that heartbeat on an ultrasound prior to 6 weeks. Wow. But if you do perform that ultrasound thinking they're 8 or 9 weeks and they're only 4 or 5 and you don't capture that heartbeat, then some women, they feel emboldened. Go ahead, get that chemical abortion pill. I can go ahead and do it because I'm early enough. It's not a real baby yet. And so there's a certain urgency that's happening in women's minds that I think is different than it was when there wasn't quite the crunch that they were feeling before the heartbeat law went into effect. I agree with Leanne. I do think that we are still seeing women who are making that choice, the right choice to carry their children, and to allow us to walk with them through that choice. So it is a great victory that Roe has overturned.
Yeah. So you're handling most of these phone calls through volunteers or paid staff, or is it a mixture?
So we have paid staff at so we actually utilize a call center model. So we have 6 paid staff that are handling phone calls. So they're uniquely trained and able to do that. Yeah. But we do utilize volunteers. We use volunteers as what we call client advocates, or they really navigate with that woman through her time with us. We, being an urban center, we do sonograms every day. So we're navigating and walking with her. So that volunteer has an opportunity to build a relationship with her and kind of help her and explain. Okay, because you've got to remember, I'm sure we've all been in a crisis at some point. Your mind is going 1,000 different possibilities, and to have that woman, or we have men that work with the men that come into our center as well, having that volunteer be able to say, okay, now you're going to have your pregnancy test. Then a nurse will come in and give us the results of that. And, depending on those results will depend on whether or not you have a sonogram today and how are you feeling? Tell me a little bit about your situation. So really just building a relationship and listening. It's as simple as that, is just loving that person. And
So, what are some of the unique challenges you have in a ministry like this? I mean, for me, I'm as a leader, I'm up at night worrying about my own ministry and my organization, right? And how we're going to reach certain goals and how we're going to reach more people with our pray, vote, and engage message. But I can imagine that this ministry is real unique in that you have multiple challenges on multiple fronts. What are one or two of those that maybe if you had more something that it might fix that?
well, I have always said probably one of the areas for pregnancy centers that's not the as fundable as perhaps when you say, hey, we'd love you to help support us do sonograms. It's very easy to get people behind that. We have incredible machines. We have 9 nurses on staff that are nurse sonographers. They're incredible as well, and a bunch of volunteer nurses that give us time. But they can be the most incredibly gifted women. We can have the best machines. We can love, extravagantly. But if a woman in crisis does not find her way to a pregnancy center, then all of the rest of that does not happen. So marketing for us is, I think it's crucial. And like you were saying when you asked, how do you reach those women? It's trying to figure out, like, nobody is thinking about us or thinking about the possibility until they find themselves in that situation.
Right.
So being able to position ourselves, whether it be through the utilization of Snapchat, which, I'm old enough, I barely understand. So making sure you have those people in place that do, but, the Snapchat and the YouTube and, how can we get out there and position ourselves that maybe when they find themselves in a need that they're coming to us.
Right.
For sure.
And even advertising on Google or search engines.
Yes.
Of, different words so that they find you. Yeah.
It's messaging. It's really what the abortion industry has controlled the narrative around abortion for so long.
Yeah.
That really this is the moment where I think pregnancy centers and those in the pro-life movement or those that are pro-life, we need to be able to stand up and correct the narrative.
Yes.
And explain the truth about people that find themselves in a unplanned pregnancy, perhaps seeking an abortion. What are those reasons? And I think it's, there's a lot of misinformation out there that people believe that people come into us and they want an abortion and we're not being truthful. And the absolute opposite happens, where a woman comes into us and she's very conflicted. And she really wants to be able to have this child, and she just needs someone to say, these are the things that we can help you with, and you can do this. And they choose 86% of the time, I think, is a very typical average. It's our average.
Awesome.
They choose life.
That's
so
amazing.
I mean, just funding and support, volunteer, pray.
It's the hardest thing for us to fundraise. Hey, we need to reach more Christians out there to pray, vote, and engage. I need you to give me marketing money. They're like, what?
Yeah.
But it is the most important. And for those of y'all listening to us nationally, our national partner in this space is Human Coalition. And that's they have teleclinics. They are doing massive amounts of marketing nationally to help these women find these crisis pregnancy centers. So if you want to support nationally, that's the way to do it. But Debbie, what's a unique challenge y'all face out there in the country?
I think it's a lot the same. Our strategies may be a little bit different because our market is different. They're spread out further. Their population numbers are not as high. We don't have a university close by, but finding ways to reach those that we need to reach. We've got to find better ways of marketing because we know they're out there. We just have to find the right way to get them in the door, so to speak. But I think another area that we need help with is partnerships. We can help women and men choose life. We can walk with them and teach them how to be a healthy parent and get them set up and established as a new parent than when they weren't expecting to be. But that doesn't get them a job necessarily. That doesn't get their transportation needs met. that there's many things that other things in their life that I believe churches could help us with,
Yes.
partner with. Can they provide free or low-cost childcare so that a new mom might go back into the workforce? There's many things that churches can do to partner with us and help us be a team to rescuing and empowering families, and not just leaving it to the pregnancy center to try to do all of these things.
Yes. And we're really calling on all of our churches that we've been in or partner with that if you have not put your pregnancy center in your area in your missions budget, you absolutely have to do that, people. It needs to be in the missions budget, and you need to be steering volunteers towards those works. Leanne, how do you train people? So if someone walks in, they go, hey, I'm thinking about volunteering. What does that look like? How many hours a week or a month? And what does that training look like?
Yeah, so we're going to obviously do a background check and do an interview and make sure that you really are, called. And then we're going to ask you to shadow one of our volunteers or staff, because I want you to understand, exactly what you're going to hear, what you're going, it's not for everybody. It definitely is a calling.
Yes.
But we have extensive training. So, it's everything from classroom time to, a good month or two, couple months of on-site training so we ask for a minimum of a shift a week if you're going to work directly with the clients. There's lots of roles in a pregnancy center that people can help with, whether it be, if you're an accountant or you just want to work the front reception desk or you want to help, sort baby clothes. We have roles for you, but specifically the role of sitting with a client, it's a process. So we ask for a once a week commitment of 3 to 4 hours, depending on the shift. And then you're going to go through training, and then you're going to, through that training, be shadowing. And then we're going to shadow you for a while. And then we're going to do a yearly check-in and make sure, and that an ongoing training, I'm sure you guys also do. We're constantly, bringing in people to train on specific, things that we're seeing walk through the door. So whether it be the law change or it might be a cultural issue, like, to understand a different culture that we're seeing more and more walk in through the pregnancy center doors. But so we're constantly trying to find people who want to stay teachable and to grow and grow with us.
That's so good. And people can volunteer. I mean, you need to be, if you're looking for a place to plug into the pro-life community, this is the best way. And we're going to talk about in our new curriculum coming up that we'll be launching in December, Lord willing, on how to be salt and light in your community, about how local is really where the church can really step up. So, Debbie, they can volunteer, once a week in a big role. They can volunteer, even like reach out to local churches for you, right? And do marketing and, communications and that kind of thing. But how do you get your funding, and how can people help, even your annual event that you do? What are some of the ways that people can help financially, even in this cause?
Right. There are a variety of ways that you can help financially. We have folks who have written us into their endowments. We have an annual fundraiser that we recruit sponsors to underwrite that program for us. Then we really rely heavily on monthly donors, whether it be an individual or a local business. We have quite a number of local churches who have written us into their monthly budgets. That is extremely important for us because it helps us plan. We can have all the vision we want to expand our ministry and reach more people, but if we don't have the financial funding to do that, then we're limited on what we can do. So, there are many ways that you can help us. We take donations. We have a beautiful, we call it our Hope Boutique, where our clients earn their bucks by going to class or Bible study, and they exchange those bucks for anything baby. It's fun. It's beautiful. They enjoy it. And so we need constant donations, not just clothes and diapers, but car seats and strollers and porta cribs and things that are costly. I just had a conversation with our male mentor and one of his young clients. I happened to step in and they were talking about car seats. And the very young man, he says, "Do you know how much those things cost?" And our mentor was like, "Yeah, I think they're like $300. He said, "Yeah, but I got mine here."
Oh.
And so it was a beautiful opportunity to hear what blessing this young dad received by being able to obtain his car seat for his baby that he's expecting at a reduced rate by just participating in classes.
And that's a tangible way that we can be the hands and feet of Jesus, where
Absolutely.
they know we're not just saying it with words, we're saying it in action, right?
Yeah.
Leanne, what is some crazy things that people have donated to you, or ways that they could help? Can they do a diaper drive? Can they
my
fill
gosh.
up baby bottles? What are
Absolutely.
some of the things y'all have done to raise awareness and funds?
Anything.
Anything.
Yeah, pretty much. I think almost any pregnancy center out there is going to have a baby boutique. So some people, they just want to buy diapers or outfits or cribs, car seats, like you were mentioning. That's a great way. But truly, it's a medical ministry, and there's a cost to that. From the ultrasound to having medical professionals to all, anything I've learned coming into this role, that as soon as you put medical, fill in the blank, the price seems to go up.
Yeah.
And so, there's a cost involved. But, I don't apologize for that, because there is no price to put on a life that has been chosen.
Exactly.
When one of those mamas brings in her baby, and we had a young couple that were abortion pill reversal couple, and they brought in their baby to come see us, and they were so sweet. And the daddy kept holding his little one and saying, "They saved you." And I'm like, Jesus saved him. But
Amen.
It's like, let's be sure to give credit where it's right. But, like watching that dad hold that baby. And at that moment, there's no price to put on that. And so, for your listeners who are thinking, how do I get involved? First off, like your ministry, to vote, to pray, to engage, it's so very important. And for, if you are pro-life, which I would imagine your listeners are, then, to find a pregnancy center and support us and know that we're doing good work.
Yes.
And it's hard. It's really hard sometimes. Yeah. But there is nothing like watching that heart soften and that young couple or that woman choose life, or to get to see that life. We just had a young woman come in. I was actually at the birth of her child. She was, in a really tough situation, found us sitting in a Planned Parenthood, found out what the abortion was going to cost. She didn't have that money, Googled, where can I get free help? And we popped up on that search. And so she came to us that exact same day.
Wow.
Chose life, chose Christ. And we became her family, because she didn't really have a support system. And she and her 5-year-old daughter were just in my office the other day. We all had lunch together, and to get to just see this beautiful little girl thriving. And this mama who has told her the role that we played so brutally, honestly, in some ways, with this child, that it was that pivotal of a moment. That she's still crying 5 years later in my office.
Yes.
And I'm humbled. Like to Jesus, that I get to see you work in this way. You can't put a price on that.
Yep. If that doesn't make you cry, I don't know what else does. What an amazing way to end, Leanne, because that's what we want to do is be Jesus to these people. And again, guys, the world out there is accusing the church of not stepping up right now. So let's answer the call and let's step up. Let's all do something. I know for me personally, it's doubling my donation to my pregnancy center in my area and actively getting people to volunteer. So if someone's complaining, you're talking to somebody at church about what is the church doing? Well, here's your practical solution. Go volunteer. Go find a project with your pregnancy center in your local area. Well, thank you so much, Leanne from Prestonwood. Prestonwood, and for Hope Pregnancy Center. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us today. And I just want to encourage you all, if you want to find an on-ramp to get involved in the pro-life movement, join us at our Wake Up Conference, September 23rd and 24th. We will be at Church in the City in Rowlett, Texas. And we're going to have breakouts even Saturday morning. So, we're going to have Dr. Jeffers there. We're going to have Eric Metaxas, Congressman Chip Roy, Congressman Michael Cloud. So many people are going to be there. But we're also going to have you identify where are the places that you want to engage in. Is it federal government, state government, local government, human trafficking, pro-life? What is it? And get involved in a breakout session that will actually activate you to do the thing that's in your heart, because the day of the church sitting on the sidelines has to be over. We all have to find our place on the wall like Nehemiah and repair the walls of this country. So I know I'm crying today with this message, and I'm so thankful for you ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.